A donut or donut is a type of pastry made from leavened fried dough. It is popular in many countries and is prepared in various forms as a sweet snack that can be homemade or purchased in bakeries, supermarkets, food stalls, and franchised specialty vendors. Donuts are usually deep-fried from a flour dough, but other types of batters can also be used. Various toppings and flavors are used for different types, such as sugar, chocolate, or maple glazing. Donuts may also include water, leavening, eggs, milk, sugar, oil, shortening, and natural or artificial flavors. The two most common types are the ring donut and the filled donut, which is injected with fruit preserves, the jelly donut, cream, custard, or other sweet fillings. Small pieces of dough are sometimes cooked as donut holes. Once fried, donuts may be glazed with a sugar icing, spread with icing or chocolate, or topped with powdered sugar, cinnamon, sprinkles, or fruit. Other shapes include balls, flattened spheres, twists, and other forms. Donut varieties are also divided into cake, including the old-fashioned and yeast-risen donuts. Donuts are often accompanied by coffee or milk. History. Early history. A recipe for a deep-fried dough ball was recorded by Cato the Elder in his De Agricultura, using cheese, honey, and poppy seeds, called globi. Similar types of fried dough recipes have either spread to or originated in other parts of Europe and the world. A 13th century Arabic cookbook, written by Ibn Razin al-Tujabi, contains a recipe for a donut-like variant of esfenge, made by frying leavened semolina dough. The dough is meant to be shaped into a small ball. The recipe also calls for shaping the dough into a caque with a hole in the middle to test its proofing. This is done before frying the first batch and results in a shape reminiscent of a modern donut. The cookbook Küchenmeisterei, Mastery of the Kitchen, published in Nuremberg in 1485, offers a recipe for Gefelkrapfen, stuffed, fried dough cakes. The Spanish and Portuguese churro is a chew pastry dough that would also be served in a ring shape. The recipe may have been brought from or introduced to China in the 16th century. England and North America. Dutch settlers brought alakoek, oil cake, to New York or New Amsterdam in the early 18th century. These donuts closely resembled later ones, but did not yet have their current ring shape. A recipe for fried dough, nuts, was published in 1750 England under the title, How to Make Hertfordshire Cakes, Nuts and Pincushions, in the Country Housewife's Family Companion by William Ellis. A recipe labeled Dough Nuts, again from Hertfordshire, was found in a book of recipes and domestic tips written around 1800 by the wife of Baron Thomas Dimsdale, the recipe being given to the Dowager Baroness by an acquaintance who transcribed for her the cooking instructions for a dough nut. The first cookbook using the near-conventional dough nuts spelling was possibly the 1803 edition of The Frugal Housewife, or Complete Woman Cook, which included dough nuts in an appendix of American recipes. One of the earliest mentions of dough nut was in Washington Irving's 1809 book, A History of New York, From the Beginning of the World to the End of the Dutch Dynasty. Sometimes the table was graced with immense apple pies or saucers full of preserved peaches and pears, but it was always sure to boast of an enormous dish of balls of sweetened dough, fried in hog's fat and called doughnuts or alikokes, a delicious kind of cake, at present scarce known in the city, excepting in genuine Dutch families. The name alikokes was almost certainly related to the oliekoek, a Dutch delicacy of sweetened cake fried in fat. Etymology. Look up donut or donut in Wiktionary, the free dictionary. Donut. One of the earliest known literary usages of the term dates to an 1808 short story describing a spread of fire cakes and doughnuts. Washington Irving described doughnuts in his 1809 History of New York as balls of sweetened dough, fried in hog's fat, and called doughnuts or alikokes. These nuts of fried dough might now be called donut holes. The word nut is here used in the earlier sense of small rounded cake or cookie, also seen in ginger nut. Donut is the traditional spelling and still dominates even in the United States, though donut is often used. At present, donut and the shortened form donut are both pervasive in American English. Donut. Glazed donuts rolling on a conveyor belt at a Krispy Kreme donut shop. The first known printed use of donut was in Peck's Bad Boy and His Pa by George W. Peck, published in 1900, in which a character is quoted as saying, "Pa said he guessed he hadn't got much appetite, and he would just drink a cup of coffee and eat a donut." According to author John T. Edge, the alternative spelling donut was invented in the 1920s when the New York-based Display Donut Machine Corporation abbreviated the word to make it more pronounceable by the foreigners they hoped would buy their automated donut-making equipment. The donut spelling also showed up in a Los Angeles Times article dated August 10, 1929, in which Bailey Millard jokingly complains about the decline of spelling, and that he can't swallow the well-done donut nor the ever-so-good bread. The interchangeability of the two spellings can be found in a series of National Donut Week articles in the New York Times that covered the 1939 World's Fair. In 4 articles beginning 9 October, 2 mention the donut spelling. Dunkin' Donuts, which was so named in 1950, following its 1948 founding under the name Open Kettle in Quincy, Massachusetts, is the oldest surviving company to use the donut variation. Other chains, such as the defunct Mayflower Donut Corporation, 1931, did not use that spelling. According to the Oxford Dictionaries, while donut is used internationally, the spelling donut is American, with Krispy Kreme being a notable exception. The spelling donut remained rare until the 1950s and has since grown significantly in popularity. In Australia, the brand Donut King uses the spelling donut. Types: clockwise from upper left, donuts in 2 shapes, donut holes, orange Halloween donuts, and a pink Christmas donut. Rings: Hanson Gregory, an American, claimed to have invented the ring-shaped donut in 1847 aboard a lime trading ship when he was 16 years old. Gregory was dissatisfied with the greasiness of donuts twisted into various shapes and with the raw center of regular donuts. He claimed to have punched a hole in the center of dough with the ship's tin pepper box, and to have later taught the technique to his mother. Smithsonian Magazine states that his mother, Elizabeth Gregory, made a wicked deep-fried dough that cleverly used her son's spice cargo of nutmeg and cinnamon, along with lemon rind, and put hazelnuts or walnuts in the center, where the dough might not cook through, and called the food donuts. Ring donuts may be formed by a number of methods, including joining the ends of a long, skinny piece of dough into a ring, or using a donut cutter, which simultaneously cuts the outside and inside shape, leaving a donut-shaped piece of dough and a donut hole, the dough removed from the center. This smaller piece of dough can be cooked and served as a donut hole or added back to the batch to make more donuts. A disc-shaped donut can also be stretched and pinched into a torus until the center breaks to form a hole. Alternatively, a donut depositor can be used to place a circle of liquid dough batter directly into the fryer. Donuts in a display case at a coffee shop. There are 2 types of ring donuts, those made from a yeast-based dough for raised donuts, or those made from a special type of cake batter. Yeast-raised donuts contain about 25% oil by weight, whereas cake donuts' oil content is around 20%, but have extra fat included in the batter before frying. Cake donuts are fried for about 90 seconds at approximately 190 to 198 degrees C, 374 to 388 degrees F, turning once. Yeast-raised donuts absorb more oil because they take longer to fry, about 150 seconds, at 182 to 190 C, 360 to 374 degrees F. Cake donuts typically weigh between 24 and 28 g, 0.85 and 0.99 ounces, whereas yeast-raised donuts average 38 g, 1.3 ounces, and are generally larger and taller due to rising when finished. Daniela Galarza, for Eater, wrote that the now standard donut's hole is still up for debate. Food writer Michael Crondall surmises that the shape came from recipes that called for the dough to be shaped like a jumble, a once common ring-shaped cookie. In Cuisine and Culture, A History of Food and People, culinary historian Linda Savitalo writes that the hole was invented because it allowed the donuts to cook faster. By 1870, donut cutters, shaped in 2 concentric circles, one smaller than the other, began to appear in home shopping catalogs. Topping: the process of glazing donuts. After frying, ring donuts are often topped. Raised donuts are generally covered with a glaze icing. Cake donuts can also be glazed, powdered with confectioner's sugar, or covered with cinnamon and granulated sugar. They are also often topped with cake frosting, top only, and sometimes sprinkled with coconut, chopped peanuts, or sprinkles. Holes. Donut holes are small, bite-sized donuts that were traditionally made from the dough taken from the center of ring donuts. Before long, donut sellers saw the opportunity to market holes as a novelty, and many chains offer their own variety. Some with their own brand names, such as Munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts and Timbits from Tim Hortons. Traditionally, donut holes are made by frying the dough removed from the center portion of the donut. Consequently, they are considerably smaller than a standard donut and tend to be spherical. Similar to standard donuts, donut holes may be topped with confections, such as glaze or powdered sugar. Originally, most varieties of donut holes were derivatives of their ring donut, yeast-based dough, or cake batter counterparts. However, donut holes can also be made by dropping a small ball of dough into hot oil from a specially shaped nozzle or cutter. This production method has allowed donut sellers to produce bite-sized versions of non-ring donuts, such as filled donuts, fritters, and duchies. Filled donuts are flattened spheres injected with fruit preserves, cream, custard, or other sweet fillings, and often dipped into powdered sugar or topped off with frosting. Common varieties include the Boston cream, coconut, key lime, and jelly. Other shapes. Others include the fritter and the duchy, which are usually glazed. These have been available on Tim Hortons' donut menu since the chain's inception in 1964, and a 1991 Toronto Star report found these two were the chain's most popular type of fried dough in Canada. There are many other specialized donut shapes such as old-fashioned, bars or long johns, a rectangular shape, or twists. Other shapes include balls, flattened spheres, twists, and other forms. In the Northeast United States, bars and twists are usually referred to as crullers. Another is the beignet, a square-shaped donut covered with powdered sugar, commonly associated with New Orleans. Regional variations. Main article, list of donut varieties. Asia, Cambodia, Nam Kong, letter 1793, letter 17C6, letter 1794, letter 17BB, letter 1784, letter 1780, letter 1784. The traditional Cambodian donut is named after its shape. The word, letter 1780, letter 1784, pronounced Kong in Khmer, literally means wheel. Whilst Nam, letter 1793, letter 17C6, letter 1794, letter 17BB, letter 1784, is the general word for pastry or any kind of starchy food. A very inexpensive treat for everyday Cambodians, this sweet pastry consists of a jasmine rice flour dough molded into a classic ring shape and then deep fried in fat, then drizzled with a palm sugar toffee and sprinkled with sesame seeds. The rice flour gives it a chewy texture that Cambodians are fond of. This childhood snack is what inspired Cambodian-American entrepreneur Ted Ngoy to build his donut empire, inspiring the film The Donut King. China. A few sweet, donut-style pastries are regional in nature. Cantonese cuisine features an oval-shaped pastry called ngao lesu, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, lit. Oxtung pastry, due to its tongue-like shape. A spherical food called sa wen yung, Chinese letter, which is also similar to a cream puff, but denser with a donut-like texture, and usually prepared with sugar sprinkled on top, is normally available in dim sum Cantonese restaurants. An oilier Beijing variant of this called Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Jali Daosha, is filled with red bean paste. Originally, it was made with egg white instead of dough. Many Chinese cultures make a chewy donut known as xiongbeatai, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, which consists of two conjoined balls of dough. Chinese restaurants in the United States sometimes serve small fried pastries similar to donut holes with condensed milk as a sauce. Chinese cuisine features long, deep-fried donut sticks that are often quite oily, hence their name in Mandarin, yu xiao, Chinese letter, oil strips. In Cantonese, this donut-style pastry is called yao jiaguai, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, ghosts fried in oil. These pastries are lightly salted and are often served with congee, a traditional rice porridge or soy milk for breakfast. India. Balushahi from India. In India, an old-fashioned sweet called gulgula is made of sweetened, deep-fried flour balls. A leavening agent may or may not be used. There are a couple of unrelated donut-shaped food items. A savory, fried, ring-shaped snack called a vada is often referred to as the Indian donut. The vada is made from dal, lentil, or potato flours rather than wheat flour. In North India, it is in the form of a bulging disc called dahi vada and is soaked in curd, sprinkled with spices and sliced vegetables, and topped with a sweet and sour chutney. In South India, a vada is eaten with sambar and a coconut chutney. Sweet pastries similar to old-fashioned donuts called badashahi and jalbai are also popular. Balushahi, also called badasha, is made from flour, deep-fried in clarified butter, and dipped in sugar syrup. Unlike a donut, balushahi is dense. A balushahi is ring-shaped, but the well in the center does not go all the way through to form a hole typical of a donut. Jalbai, which is typically pretzel-shaped, is made by deep-frying batter in oil and soaking it in sugar syrup. A variant of jalbai, called a mardi, is shaped with a small ring in the center around which a geometric pattern is arranged. Along with these Indian variants, typical varieties of donuts are also available from U.S. chains such as Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts retail outlets, as well as local brands such as Mad Over Donuts and the Donut Baker. Indonesia. The Indonesian donat kentang is a potato donut, a ring-shaped fritter made from flour and mashed potatoes, coated in powder sugar or icing sugar. Japan. A mochi donut from Mr. Donut, made with mochi. And donut filled with red bean paste from Japan. In Japan, and donut Japanese letter 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 bean paste donut is widely available at bakeries. And donut are similar to the German Berliner, but contain red azuki bean paste. Mr. Donut is one of the most popular donut chains in Japan. Native to Okinawa is a spheroid pastry similar to donuts called sada and dagi. Mochi donuts are a cross between a traditional cake-like donut and chewy mochi dough similar to what's wrapped around ice cream. This hybrid confection was originally popularized in Japan by Mr. Donut before spreading to the United States via Hawaii. The Mr. Donut style, also known as pan de ring, uses tapioca flour and produces mochi donuts that are easy to pull apart. Another variation developed in the United States uses glutinous rice flour, which produces a denser mochi donut akin to Hawaiian-style butter mochi. Mochi donuts made from glutinous rice flour typically contain half the amount of calories as the standard cake or yeast donut. Malaysia. Kuih kiria is a whole donut made from boiled sweet potato that is mashed. The sweet potato mash is shaped into rings and fried. The hot donut is then rolled in granulated sugar. The result is a donut with a sugar-crusted skin. Nepal. Sel roti is a Nepali homemade, ring-shaped rice donut prepared during Tihar, the widely celebrated Hindu festival in Nepal. A semi-liquid dough is usually prepared by adding milk, water, sugar, butter, cardamom, and mashed banana to rice flour, which is often left to ferment for up to 24 hours. A sel roti is traditionally fried in ghee. Pakistan. Donuts are available at most bakeries across Pakistan. The Nawaz Sharif variety, available mainly in the city of Karachi, is covered in chocolate and filled with cream, similar to a Boston cream. Donuts can readily be found at the many Dunkin' Donuts branches spread across Pakistan. Philippines. Buñuelos with ube filling from the Philippines. Local varieties of donuts sold by peddlers and street vendors throughout the Philippines are usually made of plain, well-kneaded dough, deep-fried in refined coconut oil and sprinkled with refined, not powdered or confectioner's sugar. Round versions of this donut are known as buñuelos, also spelled buñuelos, and sometimes confusingly known as bicho bicho, similar to the donuts in Spain and former Spanish colonies. Indigenous versions of the donut also exist, like the cascaron, which is prepared similarly, but uses ground glutinous rice and coconut milk in place of wheat flour and milk. The distinctively shaped shake, also known as lubid lubid, a donut variant from the Visayas in the Philippines. Other native donut recipes include the shakai, kumukunsi, and binankle. Shakai or siakoy from the Visayas Islands, also known as lubid-lubid in the northern Philippines, uses a length of dough twisted into a distinctive rope-like shape before being fried. The preparation is almost exactly the same as donuts, though there are variants made from glutinous rice flour. The texture can range from soft and fluffy, to sticky and chewy, to hard and crunchy. In the latter case, they are known as pilipit. They are sprinkled with white sugar, but can also be topped with sesame seeds or caramelized sugar. Kumukunsi is a jalba-like native donut from the Maguindanao people. It is made with rice flour, duck eggs, and sugar that is molded into rope-like strands and then fried in a loose spiral. It has the taste and consistency of a creamy pancake. Binankle are simple fried dough balls covered in sesame seeds. Other fried dough desserts include the mesh-like lakat-lakat, the fried rice cake panialam, and the banana fritter maruya, among others. Taiwan. In Taiwan, xiongbaotai, Chinese letter lit. Twins is 2 pieces of dough wrapped together before frying. Thailand. In Thailand, a popular breakfast food is pathong ko, also known as Thai donuts, a version of the Chinese yu ya goi/yu xiao. Often sold from food stalls in markets or by the side of the road, these donuts are small, sometimes X-shaped, and sold by the bag full. They are often eaten in the morning with hot Thai tea. Vietnam. Vietnamese varieties of donuts include bánh tiaru, bánh cam, and bánh ron. Bánh tiaru is a sesame-topped, deep-fried pastry that is hollow. It can be eaten alone or cut in half and served with bánh bo, a gelatinous cake, placed inside the pastry. Bánh cam is from southern Vietnam and is a ball-shaped, deep-fried pastry coated entirely in sesame seeds and containing a mung bean paste filling. Bánh ron is from northern Vietnam and is similar to bánh cam. However, the difference is that bánh ron is covered with a sugar glaze after being deep-fried, and its mung bean paste filling includes a jasmine essence. Europe. Armenia. Armenian vanilla and chocolate custard, filled fried dough sprinkled with powdered sugar called ponchik. Armenia, ponchik Armenian. Huponchik anus, borrowed from the Russian word pa-en-che-ka, is a deep-fried piece of dough shaped into a flattened sphere that turns into a puffed-up sphere upon frying and then becomes a flattened sphere after it is opened. Ponchiks are filled with custard, plain, vanilla, or chocolate mostly, while nowadays they also get filled with Nutella, caramel, and jam. In Armenian cuisine, ponchik has evolved from its possibly medieval Armenian, although under different name, and Soviet roots into a beloved street and cafe dessert with a distinctly local character. While the Russian ponchik is often unfilled, or filled with jam and resembles a normal donut, the Armenian version is always filled with custard and puffy, collapsing after it is opened. Tutalik Armenian, Hu tutalik anos, is another Armenian donut-like dessert similar to donut holes. Armenian donuts are sometimes also referred to as chickies. Austria. A woman sells dugnuts in late 18th century Vienna. In Austria, donut equivalents are called Krapfen. They are especially popular during carnival season Fasching and do not have the typical ring shape, but instead are solid and usually filled with apricot jam, traditional, or vanilla cream, Vanillekrapfen. A second variant, called Bauernkrapfen, are also made of yeast dough and have a thick outside ring, but are very thin in the middle. Belgium. In Belgium, the smoutenballen in Dutch, or kroustelens in French, are similar to the Dutch kind of oliebollen, but they usually do not contain any fruit, except for apple chunks sometimes. They are typical carnival and fair snacks and are coated with powdered sugar. Czech Republic. Czech kablichy. US-style donuts are available in the Czech Republic. Buet traditional ones have a solid shape and are filled with jelly, strawberry, or apricot. The shape is similar to donuts in Germany or Poland. They are called kablichy, kabliha in singular. They may also be filled with nougat or with vanilla custard. There are now many fillings, halved or non-filled knots with sugar and cinnamon on top. Denmark. In Denmark, US-style donuts may be found at various stores, for example McDonald's and most gas stations. The Berliner, however, is also available in bakeries. Finland. a Finnish lihapiirakka. In Finland, a sweet donut is called a monkey. The word also means monk, and are commonly eaten in cafes and cafeteria restaurants. It is sold cold and sometimes filled with jam, like US jelly donuts, or a vanilla sauce. A ring donut is also known as danitsi. A savory form of donut is the lihapiirakka, literally meat pie. Made from a donut mixture and deep fried, the end product is more akin to a savory donut than any pie known in the English-speaking world. Former Yugoslavia. Donuts similar to the Berliner are prepared in the Northern Balkans, particularly in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, North Macedonia and Serbia, paklednice or krofni. They are also called krofna, krafna or krafni, a name derived from the Austrian krapfen for this pastry. In Croatia, they are especially popular during carnival season and do not have the typical ring shape, but instead are solid. Traditionally, they are filled with jam, apricot, or plum. However, they can be filled with vanilla or chocolate cream. Other types of donuts are ushtipsa and fritchel. France. The French beignet, literally bump, is the French and New Orleans equivalent of a donut, a pastry made from deep-fried choux pastry. Germany. German Berliner. In parts of Germany, the donut equivalents are called Berliner, SG, and PL, but not in the capital city of Berlin itself and neighboring areas, where they are called Pfannkuchen, which is often found misleading by people in the rest of Germany, who use the word Pfannkuchen to describe a pancake, which is also the literal translation of it. Both Berliner and Pfannkuchen are abbreviations of the term Berliner Pfannkuchen, however. In Middle Germany, donuts are called Krapell or Pfannkuchen. In southern Germany, they are also called Krapfen and are especially popular during carnival season, carnival/Fasching, in southern and middle Germany, and on New Year's Eve in northern Germany. A Berliner does not have the typical ring shape of a donut, but instead is solid and usually filled with jam, while a ring-shaped variant called Kameruner is common in Berlin and eastern Germany. Bismarcks and Berlin donuts are also found in Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Switzerland, and the United States. Today, US-style donuts are also available in Germany, but are less popular than their native counterparts. Greece. In Greece, a donut-like snack called laukumas, lambda omicronupsilin kappa omicronupsilin mu alpha sigma, which is spherical and soaked in honey syrup, is available. It is often served with sprinkled cinnamon and grated walnuts or sesame seeds. Hungary. Fonk is a sweet traditional Hungarian cake. The most commonly used ingredients are flour, yeast, butter, egg yolk, rum, salt, milk, and oil for frying. The dough is allowed to rise for approximately 30 minutes, resulting in an extremely light pastry. Fonk is usually served with powdered sugar and lekvar. It is supposed that Fonk pastry is of the same origin as German Berliner, Dutch oliebollen, and Polish paczki. Italy. And Italian zippola. Italian donuts include Ciambelle, Krapfen from Trentino Alto Adige, Zipuli or Zeppoli from Calabria and Campania, Maritozzi from Latium, above all Rome, Bomboloni from Tuscany, Fratelli from Veneto, and many others. In the island of Sardinia, there is a particular donut, a ring cake called larica. Lithuania. In Lithuania, a kind of donut called spurgos is widely known. Some spurgos are similar to Polish paczki, but some specific recipes, such as cottage cheese donuts, varshk spurgos, were invented independently. Netherlands. Oliebollen, Dutch donuts. In the Netherlands, oliebollen, referred to in cookbooks as Dutch donuts, are a type of fritter, with or without raisins or currants, and usually sprinkled with powdered sugar. Variations of the recipe contain slices of apple or other fruits. They are traditionally eaten as part of New Year celebrations. Norway. In Norway, smultring is the prevailing type of donut traditionally sold in bakeries, shops, and stalls. However, US-style donuts are widely available in larger supermarkets, McDonald's restaurants, 7-Elevens, and bakeries. The Berliner is more common than US-style donut and sold in most supermarkets and bakeries alongside smultring donuts. Poland. Main article, paczki. Polish paczki. In Poland and parts of the US with a large Polish community, like Chicago and Detroit, the round, jam-filled donuts eaten especially. though not exclusively, during Carnival are called paczki, pronounced stress p opena nt s retroflex k ma ji. Paczki have been known in Poland at least since the Middle Ages. Jedrzej Kitowicz has described that during the reign of the Augustus III, under influence of French cooks who came to Poland at that time, paczki dough fried in Poland has been improved, so that paczki became lighter, spongier, and more resilient. Portugal. The malasada is a common type of whole-less donut created in Portugal. They are made of fried dough. In Madeira and the Azores, they are eaten on Fat Tuesday. It is also popular in Hawaii and Cape Cod. The malasada arrived after immigrants came in. Romania. The Romanian dessert gagosi are fried dough balls similar to filled donuts. They are stuffed with chocolate, jam, cheese, and other combinations, and may be dusted with icing sugar. Russia. In Russia and the other post-Soviet countries, panchiki Russian, panchiki, plural form of panchiki, panchik or pishki Russian, pierushaki, especially in St. Petersburg, are a very popular sweet donut, with many fast and simple recipes available in Russian cookbooks for making them at home as a breakfast or coffee pastry. Slovenia. In Slovenia, a jam-filled donut known as krofi is very popular. It is the typical sweet during carnival time, but is to be found in most bakeries during the whole year. The most famous krofi come from the village of Trojan in central Slovenia and are originally filled with apricot jam filling. Spain. Fried rosquillas from Asturias, Spain. In Spain, there are two different types of donuts. The first one, simply called donuts or more traditionally berlinas, is a US-style donut. That is, a deep-fried, sweet, soft ring of flour dough. The Spanish term berlinesas mainly refers to a type of pastry, rather different from the classic donut, see Spanish, berlinesa. The second type of donut is a traditional pastry called rosquilla or rosquite. The latter name is typical in the Canary Islands, made of fermented dough and fried or baked in an oven. Rosquillas were purportedly introduced in Spain by the Romans. In Spain, there are several variants of them depending on the region where they are prepared and the time of the year they are sold. In some regions, they are considered a special pastry, prepared only for Easter. Although overall they are more tightly textured and less sweet than US-style donuts, they differ greatly in shape, size, and taste from one region to another. The churro is a sweet pastry of deep-fried dough similar to a donut, but shaped as a long, thin, ribbed cylinder rather than a ring or sphere. Churros are commonly served dusted in sugar as a snack or with a cup of hot chocolate. Switzerland. In Switzerland, there are Zijderkrapfen, Berliner, and Tortelli di San Giuseppe. Sweden. Similar to the Finnish monkey, the Swedish monk is a sweet donut commonly eaten as fika along with coffee. It is sold cold and is sometimes filled with jam, US jelly, or a vanilla sauce. A ring donut is also known as simply monk. Ukraine. Main article, pampushki. Ukrainian pampushki filled with sour cherries. In Ukraine, donuts are called pampushki, Ukrainian, pa-mpushaki. Pampushki are made of yeast dough containing wheat, rye, or buckwheat flour. Traditionally, they are baked, but may also be fried. According to William Pokliopkin, the technology of making pampushki points to German cuisine, and these buns were possibly created by German colonists in Ukraine. United Kingdom. 2 shop-bought lightly glazed yum-yums on a plate. On average, they are 12 to 14 centimeters, 4.7 to 5.5 in length. In the United Kingdom, both filled and ring donuts are popular, with jam donuts and other varieties readily available at supermarkets. In some parts of Scotland, ring donuts are referred to as dorings, with the donut name being reserved exclusively for the nut-shaped variety. Glazed, twisted rope-shaped donuts are known as yum-yums. It is also possible to buy fudge donuts in certain regions of Scotland. Fillings include jam, custard, cream, sweet mincemeat, chocolate, and apple. Common ring toppings are sprinkle iced and chocolate. In Northern Ireland, ring donuts are known as gravy rings, gravy being an archaic term for hot cooking oil. North America. Punta Arenas cream-filled donuts. Caribbean region. A kurma is a small, sweet, fried cube-shaped or rectangular donut, which originated in eastern India. but is sold in Trinidad and Tobago. Costa Rica. A traditional Punta Arenas cream-filled donut is round and robust, managing to keep the cream inside liquefied. They are popular in Costa Rica. Mexico. The Mexican donas are similar to donuts, including the name. The dona is a fried dough pastry-based snack, commonly covered with powdered brown sugar and cinnamon, white sugar, or chocolate. United States and Canada. Frosted, glazed, powdered, Boston cream, coconut, sour cream, cinnamon, chocolate, and jelly are some of the varieties eaten in the United States and Canada. There are also potato donuts, sometimes referred to as spudnuts. Donuts are ubiquitous in the United States and can be found in most grocery stores, as well as in specialty donut shops. They are equally popular in Canada. Canadians eat more donuts per capita than any other nation and has more donuts shops per capita than any other nation. A popular donut in Hawaii is the malasada. Malasadas were brought to the Hawaiian Islands by early Portuguese settlers and are a variation on Portugal's filhos. They are small, eggy balls of yeast dough deep-fried and coated in sugar. Immigrants have brought various donut varieties to the United States and Canada. To celebrate Fat Tuesday in eastern Pennsylvania, churches sell a potato starch donut called a fastnacht or fastnacht. The treats are so popular there that Fat Tuesday is often called Fastnacht Day. The Polish donut, the paczki, is popular in U.S. and Canadian cities with large Polish communities such as Chicago, Milwaukee, Windsor, and Detroit. In regions of the country where apples are widely grown, especially the Northeast and Midwest states, cider donuts are a harvest season specialty, especially at orchards open to tourists, where they can be served fresh. Cider donuts are a cake donut with apple cider in the batter. The use of cider affects both the texture and flavor, resulting in a denser, moister product. They are often coated with either granulated, powdered sugar, or cinnamon sugar. In southern Louisiana, a popular variety of the donut is the beignet, a fried, square donut served traditionally with powdered sugar. Perhaps the most well-known purveyor of beignets is New Orleans restaurant Café du Monde. In Quebec, homemade donuts called beignets de Noël are traditional Christmas desserts. Krispy Kreme glazed donuts. Powdered, glazed, and chocolate donuts from a variety pack sold at supermarkets. Donuts with sprinkles. Elegant donut served at a wedding breakfast in Miami Beach. Chocolate frosted donut. Donuts on a plate in Brooklyn, New York City, New York. Middle East and North Africa. Iran. Zulbia and bamiye. The Persian zulbia and bamiye are fritters of various shapes and sizes coated in a sugar syrup. Donuts are also made in the home in Iran, referred to as donut, even in the plural. Israel. Israeli sufganiyat in a wide variety of toppings at a bakery in Tel Aviv, Israel. Jelly donuts, known as sufganiya, Hebrew Samic, Hebrew Vav, Hebrew Pei, Hebrew Gimel, Hebrew Nun, Hebrew Yod, Hebrew Hey, PL. Sufganiyat, Hebrew Samic, Hebrew Vav, Hebrew Pei, Hebrew Gimel, Hebrew Nun, Hebrew Yod, Hebrew Vav, Hebrew Tav in Israel have become a traditional Hanukkah food in the recent era, as they are cooked in oil, associated with the holiday account of the miracle of the oil. Traditional sufganiyat are filled with red jelly and topped with icing sugar. However, many other varieties exist, with some being filled with dulce de leche, particularly common after the South American aliyah early in the 21st century. Morocco. In Morocco, esfenge is a similar pastry, eaten sprinkled with sugar or soaked in honey. Tunisia. In Tunisia, traditional pastries similar to donuts are yo-yos. They come in different versions both as balls and in shape of donuts. They are deep-fried and covered in a honey syrup or a kind of frosting. Sesame seeds are also used for flavor and decoration, along with orange juice and vanilla. Oceania. Australia. Custard-filled donuts served by Il Forno, St Kilda, Victoria, Australia. In Australia, the donut is a popular snack food. Jam donuts are particularly popular, especially in Melbourne, Victoria, and the Queen Victoria Market, where they are a tradition. Jam donuts are similar to a Berliner, but are served hot. Red jam, raspberry or strawberry, is injected into the bun before it is deep fried, and then it is coated with either sugar or sugar mixed with cinnamon as soon as it has been cooked. Jam donuts are sometimes also bought frozen. In South Australia, they are known as Berliner or Kitchener and often served in cafes. Popular variants include custard-filled donuts and more recently Nutella-filled donuts. Mobile vans that serve donuts, traditional or jam, are often seen at spectator events, markets, carnivals, and fetes, and by the roadside near high-traffic areas like airports and the car parks of large shopping centers. Traditional cinnamon donuts are readily available in Australia from specialized retailers and convenience stores. Donuts are a popular choice for schools and other not-for-profit groups to cook and sell as a fundraiser. New Zealand. In New Zealand, the donut is a popular food snack available in corner dairies. They are in the form of a long, sweet bread roll with a deep cut down its long axis. In this cut is placed a long dollop of sweetened clotted cream, and on top of this is a spot of strawberry jam. Donuts are of two varieties, fresh cream or mock cream. The rounded variety is widely available as well. South America. Brazil. In Brazil, bakeries, grocery stores, and pastry shops sell ball-shaped donuts popularly known as sanjos, lit, dreams. The dessert was brought to Brazil by Portuguese colonizers that had contact with Dutch and German traders. They are the equivalent of nowadays boluses de Berlim, lit, balls of Berlin in Portugal, but the traditional Portuguese yellow cream was substituted by local dairy and fruit products. They are made of a special type of bread filled with goiabada, guava jelly, or milk cream, and covered by white sugar. Chile. The Berlin, plural Berlins, donut is popular in Chile because of the large German community. It may be filled with jam or with manjar, the Chilean version of dulce de leche. Peru. Peruvian cuisine includes picarones, which are donut-shaped fritters made with a squash and sweet potato base. These snacks are almost always served with a drizzle of sweet molasses-based sauce. Sub-Saharan Africa. South Africa. In South Africa, an Afrikaans variation known as the koeksister is popular. Another variation, similar in name, is the Cape Malay koeksister, being soaked in a spiced syrup and coated in coconut. It has a texture similar to more traditional donuts as opposed to the Afrikaans variety. A further variation is the vetkoek, which is also dough deep-fried in oil. It is served with mince, syrup, honey, or jam. In popular culture. Shutterstock. Police officers in South Korea eating donuts. Police officers liking donuts is a common stereotype. The donut has made many appearances in popular culture, particularly in the United States and Australia. References extend to objects or actions that are donut-shaped. New York police officers in a Dunkin' Donuts in the East Village. In film, the donut has inspired Dora's Dunkin' Donuts, 1933, The Donuts, 1963, and Tour de Donut, Gluttons for Punishment. In video games, the donut has appeared in games like The Simpsons Game and Donut Dilemma. In the cartoon Mucha Lucha, there are 4 things that make up the code of mask wrestling: honor, family, tradition, and donuts. Also, in the television sitcom The Simpsons, Homer Simpson's love affair with donuts is a prominent ongoing joke, as well as the focal point of more than a few episodes. In the children's book Homer Price, Homer's uncle Ulysses installs a donut-making machine in his lunchroom in the fictional town of Centerburg. There is also a children's book Arnie, the donut, and music albums The Donut in Granny's Greenhouse. In films, TV shows, and other popular culture references, police officers are associated with donuts, depicted as enjoying them during their coffee break or office hours. This cliché has been parodied in the film Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, where Officer Zed is instructing new recruits how to properly consume their donuts with coffee. It is also parodied in the television series Twin Peaks, where the police station is always in large supply. In the video game Neuromancer, there is a donut world shop, where only policemen are allowed. During a citywide lockdown, after the Boston Marathon bombing, a handful of selected Dunkin' Donuts locations were ordered to remain open to serve police and first responders despite the closing of the vast majority of city businesses. Industry by country. Australia. Donut King is Australia's largest retailer of donuts. A Guinness Book of Records largest donut made up of 90,000 individual donuts, was set in Sydney in 2007 as part of a celebration for the release of the Simpsons movie. Canada. Per capita, Canadians consume the most donuts, and Canada has the most donut stores per capita. United States. Within the United States, the Providence metropolitan area was cited as having the most donut shops per capita, 25.3 donut shops per 100,000 people, as of 13 January 2010. National Donut Day celebrates the donut's history and role in popular culture. There is a race in Stanton, Illinois featuring donuts, called the Tour de Donut. Pink boxes. In the US, especially in Southern California, fresh donuts sold by the dozen at local donut shops are typically packaged in generic pink boxes. This phenomenon has been attributed to Ted Ngoy and Ning Yen, refugees of the Cambodian genocide who began to transform the local donut shop industry in 1976. They proved so adept at the business and in training fellow Chinese Cambodian refugees to follow suit that these local donut shops soon dominated native franchises such as Winchel's Donuts. Ngoy and Yen allegedly planned to purchase boxes of a lucky red color rather than the standard white, but settled on a leftover pink stock because of its lower cost. In the mid-1970s, pink donut boxes were already a common sight in the eastern and midwestern United States, due to the fact that Dunkin' Donuts used a solid pink color for its boxes at that time. It switched to a different box design sometime after 1975, but the chain did not begin to establish a major presence in California until the 2010s. Owing to the success of Ngoy and Yen's business, the color soon became a recognizable standard in California. Due to the locality of Hollywood, the pink boxes frequently appeared as film and television props and were thus transmitted into popular culture. Holidays and festivals. National Donut Day. A World War I propaganda poster featuring the Salvation Army's making of donuts during the war. National Donut Day, also known as National Donut Day, celebrated in the United States of America, is on the first Friday of June each year, succeeding the Donut Day event created by the Salvation Army in 1938 to honor those of their members who served donuts to soldiers during World War I. About 250 Salvation Army volunteers went to France. Because of the difficulties of providing freshly baked goods from huts established in abandoned buildings near the front lines, the two Salvation Army volunteers, Ensign Margaret Sheldon and Adjutant Helen Purviance, came up with the idea of providing donuts. These are reported to have been an instant hit, and soon many soldiers were visiting the Salvation Army huts. Margaret Sheldon wrote of one busy day, "Today I made 22 pies, 300 donuts, 700 cups of coffee." Soon, the women who did this work became known by the servicemen as donut dollies.